High street ahead, got me head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Okay, so welcome to the Slippery Slope podcast, and I'm Jay Fallon, obviously. So today, I want to have a look at what I think is one of the biggest misinformation campaigns coming out of Canberra. Canberra, if you don't know, if you're not from Australia, that's the capital of Australia. That's where it's like the Washington of America. It's the capital. It's not the biggest city. It's just where our politicians govern from. So I want to look at this misinformation campaign coming out of Canberra, this fantasy that the federal government is helping, in quotation marks, helping young Australians into their first home, while simultaneously creating the very conditions that make home ownership impossible. Because so what we're seeing coming out of Canberra it's not just bad policy, and it's not even incompetence. It's deliberate misdirection. And I believe it's the deliberate destruction of the Australian economy. Because obviously, I've spoken several times about the Great Resets, my thoughts on the Great Resets. But if you want to have this reset of the global financial system, you have to destroy the one that's currently operating. So that's what I think. That's what I believe is currently at play here. This is what I think is happening, and I think the Australian government is a part of it. This is what they're doing. So we've got this first home buyer Mirage. So I did a live episode today on YouTube, and the last story, the last part of the episode that I spoke on was to do with this article, an article coming out of the Courier Mail, where what we learnt was that 1 in 5 recipients of the government's first home buyer scheme, the 5% deposit guarantee, so 1 in 5 of those recipients are not Australian citizens. That equates to 51,000 permanent residents accessing a program sold to the public as a lifeline for young Australians trying to get into the market. So that came out today in the Courier Mail. So now the housing minister rushed out to defend it. She said permanent residents aren't the problem, in quotation marks, and she accused critics of racing One Nation, as in One Nation, the political party. So she's accused critics of racing One Nation to the bottom. What she's saying there, what she's trying to accuse people of is racism. She's trying to say, well, if this is how you think, if you agree with One Nation, and this is the kind of rhetoric that you believe, you are obviously racist. You can't just be looking at the facts and stating facts. You must be racist. They always deflect. People without an actual argument, people who can't defend themselves with facts, always go to some other accusation. Well, then you must be racist. Well, then the problem is you. You're the one that's done it. It's your, put in whatever phobia they accuse you of. You're the problem. You've got this racist attitude. That's what she's accusing us of. But the real issue, this government keeps telling Australians, telling us, me and you, they're helping you buy a home, while quietly expanding the pool of people competing for the same limited supply. Go figure. But yet, if you notice this, if you say anything about it, well, racist. So they want the headline, we're helping first home buyers, but they don't want the truth. The truth is we're helping more people chase fewer houses. The headlines they want is that we're helping first home buyers. The truth is we're helping more people chase fewer houses. We've seen these broken promises of new housing over the last couple of years. Remember the promise. A couple of years ago, they said 1.2 million new homes, a historic housing accord, a once in a generation building boom. This is what they promised us, the Albanese government, except we already know they're falling catastrophically short, not a little short, not, we'll catch up next year kind of short, mathematically impossible short. That's where we're going with this. So, and if you ask yourself why, well, if you ask why, because Australia doesn't have the workers, we don't have the materials, we don't have the land release. We've got the land, we don't have the land release, you know, which is a government issue again, and we don't have the construction capacity. And the government knows this. They know it all too well. They've been told repeatedly by industry, by economists, by their own advisory bodies. But instead of admitting the truth, they keep repeating the same line. We're on track. Everything is fine. The plan is working. But it's not working. It was never going to work. And they knew it. And so the issue we have now is the migration math. They don't want you and I to do the migration math. And this is where the misinformation becomes undeniable. Australia already has a housing shortfall. You cannot deny that. We all know this. We have a housing shortfall. We cannot build fast enough to catch up with the shortfall. And yet the federal government continues to bring in record numbers of migrants while insisting migration has nothing to do with housing. Nothing to do with housing. Really, that's what they're saying. If you have a shortage of homes, a shrinking construction workforce, a government missing its own building targets, and then you add hundreds of thousands of new arrivals every year, what do you think happens? This isn't ideology. This isn't racism. This isn't political spin. This is just basic math. You have more people plus fewer houses equals higher prices, higher rents, and fewer opportunities for young Australians, the very ones who they keep telling us they're helping get into the housing market. But instead of acknowledging the obvious, the blatant obvious, the government tells you and I, no, migration is not the issue. Trust us. Trust us. The same people who promised 1.2 million homes they can't build, the same people who say the market is fine while first home buyers face negative equity risks, the same people who say they're helping Australians while expanding the scheme to non citizens. They say, it's all right, just trust us. And then you've got the real problem is you've got this narrative that they want. They want to sell us. They want to tell us. But then you've got reality, narrative over reality. This is the pattern. When the numbers don't add up, they change the narrative. The government changes the narrative. And when the public gets frustrated, they blame misinformation. We change the narrative at one point, then they blame misinformation. When the housing crisis worsens, they insist it's unexpected. When migration surges, they say it's not related. It's got nothing to do with it. So what? They just go and just live somewhere, just go into the ether. It's got nothing to do with housing shortfalls. It's not leadership. It's not transparency. It's storytelling or lying. And the story is always the same from the Australian government. Everything is fine. Don't look too closely. But Australians, we are looking closely. We're living the consequences. We're watching our kids give up on home ownership. We're watching rents explode. I talk to people friends, acquaintances, all the time about the housing market. And I'm seeing these people talk with great concern because of the cost of renting a home. It's just unbelievable. We're watching these rents explode. We're watching governments promise the impossible and then pretend they delivered it. It's just straight up storytelling or lying. The truth is simple. You cannot solve a housing crisis by importing more demand. That will never happen. You cannot build your way out of a shortage when you don't have the workforce. And you cannot keep telling Australians, you and I, you cannot keep telling us everything is fine when every indicator says the opposite. This isn't about left or right, liberal, Labor, One Nation, what anything like that. It's about honesty, asking the government what is truth. I always think of Pilate standing before Jesus saying, "What is truth?" It's about honesty. It's about leadership. And it's about a government that refuses to confront the reality it created. And I believe it refuses to confront the reality it created because it wants to destroy our economy. It wants the Great Reset. Like I said at the start, the only way to have the Great Reset, to own nothing and yet be happy, is if you destroy the current economic structure. It has to be destroyed. And then you'll have the Great Reset. But we've got a government that refuses to confront the reality that it created, and it refuses to tell us the truth. As always, this is just my opinion. I'm Jay Fallon, and thanks for listening to the Slippery Slope podcast. If you can, please go and check out my music. Give it a stream on Apple, Spotify, all that lovely stuff. Like I said, I'm Jay Fallon. Thank you for listening to the Slippery Slope podcast.
They just fuel a desire that will take me